Aloha, my name is Leandra Wai. I know in Ahupua'a of Kahana Haiki, in the ili of Laihau in Mākua. I, for a long time, have been a part of Mālama Mākua, at least since 1996, when the Army, when the state evicted the last of the houseless at Mākua. And then I became very involved after living under 3 years of military occupation in Mākua, where they had, for 22 days a month, practiced live fire. And it was very disturbing then, tents flashing and with each explosion, seeing red flashes of light going into Mākua, and sometimes waking up the next day and finding the whole valley burned. Anyhow, I got involved with Mālama Mākua because they were going to court to sue the Army for information over environmental concerns. And so in 2001, there was an agreement to cease fire until an environmental impact statement was created. So for all that time until now, I was really hoping and praying that there was some kind of consciousness in the whole system to provide good science. I thought maybe they wanted to know too whether their activities had left the environment toxic. So today was really revealing. All the time I was feeling like they didn't really care, but the words and the people in front of me showed me a sense that like they did care on a personal level. But what I found today was on a bureaucratic level is that they didn't care. I think his name was Shapiro, the JAG, the civilian JAG. He said, well, yeah, if they're only obligated to provide a report. Not that the report had anything of sustenance, but that they provide a report. So Judge Maui was really cute. She said, if I caught one fish and I came to the conclusion that it was of no hazard to the public, then they fulfilled their requirements. And at that moment, I remember sobbing inside. And every time I think about it for the past couple hours, I sob again, because I realize all these 8 years of hoping and praying that there would be some consciousness for good science was an illusion for me. They really had no intentions of providing good science. And I think that is the worst thing for me right now. How are we going to mitigate that? Somebody so big and controls most of our money and a large portion of the land that I love and feel sacred for. How are we going to mitigate what the Army is doing or wants to continue doing? Just give us a blank piece of paper saying, oh, we looked at it, it's okay. We didn't analyze it, but we weren't required to analyze it. I tend to be laughing right now, but I don't feel very happy about it.
Even the agreement seems to be clouded by how each person interprets the rule and then how they behave. Bad attitude, good attitude, mean, gentle. How do they treat the cultural practitioners that enter Mākua to do cultural access?
What I've observed for me on a personal level is that they appeared to care by saying the right things and performing, basically just saying, okay, we're concerned about that too and we're looking into it. What it's come down for me is that they really want to get rid of us, this environmental group. So they've labeled us in many different ways. And it's all about the person standing in front of us, not what law dictates, or not what the settlement dictates, that they should make way for us, allow us access, be environmentally concerned. They're not into that. So with each new passing person, and they never stay very long. Some are nice and accommodating, and some are get da out of here, okay? And so recently, since they've started to absolutely deny access, they've kind of flipped all over the place. It's not wearing shoes because you might get hurt. Stepping. No, it was part of a verbal agreement. Today, it's since December 2008. It's now in writing. You know, you got to watch out for this, because even if it's in writing, it doesn't mean anything until they have it in their hands, the written paper. Some of them will acknowledge the written paper and just pass it on to you. Like this one major, Kopus. He was very accommodating. He knew of the agreement to allow us to give ho'okupu without shoes. But when he left and retired, another one came in place and says, well, it may be true, but I don't have it here at this point while they're standing in front of me, so denied. I'm not sure who trains them. I remember asking Laurie that same question, and she keeps saying that they're taking on training of a cultural kind. And when I ask her what culture means, and it comes down to culture for the Army is American culture. Yeah, and they get bits and pieces of every other thing that happens, well, in their culture. And that was scary. I said, when it comes to Mākua and Hawaiian archeological and anthropological things, we natives should be giving the training. We should be stating the sensitivity of it, not them, the military. Even if you know, there's some things we can share that they cannot even talk about. And I think primarily it's the sensitive. Oh, by the way, I wear this papale so that you know it's not about just me. It's about the many people that have voices unheard about Mākua. So listen to all of us. Anyhow, I've had a hard time as a practitioner because I feel like they don't really want us there. And they've kind of piggybacked with some people who call themselves lineal descendants to say our presence, Waianae at large, and all those people that come through Mākua to visit or give respects and ho'okupu, we're all desecrating the property because that's how they feel. But I'm asking, what about their desecration to the land? Is that somehow forgiven just because some alleged lineal descendants say we're desecrating the property? I think firing a bullet into a sacred area is more desecrating than people walking and wanting to learn and be educated by it, by a time that is far gone but still held within the hearts of our people today.
The kind of use that Mālama Mākua has in mind?
We had only an English name for it. English concept was the University of Mākua of higher studies, higher spiritual studies, higher whatever encompasses culture. And the culture around Mālama ʻāina, I think that's really important to mention, because the university, as I see it and I feel about it, is about Mālama ʻāina. And so we would be, one of our biggest courses would be the excellence in ordnance removal. How to return an ʻāina back to a sane, safe place after the military or the military services has had it for a long time. And right now some of our members are involved with the EOD. Whenever the EOD has jobs to do, one of our people volunteer and go so we could get first-hand information about it. I don't think the military will want to clean Mākua like they did Kaho'olawe, because they didn't really do that. So our people are all ready to take on that responsibility for themselves. But, you know, we've even had kupuna that's been in the military that have come back to say, hey, I'm sorry, I was a part of all of this activities, but now that I'm retired, I've come to my senses and really feel my ʻāina's calling for help. So they've come back to help the Mākua return their ʻāina back to safety, and hopefully I think what they wanted to do is to put common sense or spiritual sense back into the military that they were a part of. And that to me is really exciting.
What about the accesses? And if somebody wanted to go along with the access, how do they do that?
Well, first of all, you have to call Mālama Mākua Fred Dodge a few days before the access, so your name can get on the roster. And it was before, let's say 6 months ago, that if you showed up at the place and had an ID and was ready to go, you had your shoes, fulfilled the minimum requirements, you could go along with the ones that had registered their name. Today, they're holding us to the strict letter of the law. If your name's not on the access roster, you cannot go in. However, if you know the right people, you can get by that.
So is Mālama Mākua the right people?
No, we're not the right people, sorry.
So you gotta have connection with the military to get the access.
Yeah, that's one way.
What about access to cultural sites? How has that been maintained?
Oh, that's crazy. The military, through their cultural resources people, are actually denying us access.
Okay, the cultural resource people, are they cultural practitioners or just...
No, they're the Army's version of cultural resource people. In fact, there's 2 right now that is assigned to Mākua, and I think the full requirement was that they're local, they're of Hawaiian residency, and they have the study of archeology.
Okay, it doesn't qualify them beyond that.
No.
It's a job
I think they're learning their culture while being involved with Mākua.
Oh, so Mālama Mākua is providing jobs. They're already an economic engine.
We're also educating quite a bit of people, but sometimes I think it might be to our detriment. But, you know, in the long run, everything balances out. So my job was never to withhold anything I knew.
Okay, getting back to cultural sites, access or denying access to the sites.
They're telling us that with these sites where we really are sensitive towards, they've narrowed it down to the few that's on the front part, within 1,000 meters from Farrington Highway, that they're telling us where we can, or they feel comfortable with us leaving Ho'okupu, and this doesn't satisfy a lot of us. And where we think they want us to give them is the back door on the ground, and that's why we build ahus, so we wouldn't leave food on the ground. It's insulting. It's like the ahu is the table, and so when we don't have an ahu, the next thing we do is go close to the structure and leave it on, someplace that's respectful to us, and they control that, unfortunately.
Well, they've missed a lot of their targets. That's why they call it training. From the helicopters to the machine guns to the howitzers, the mortars, and many of their tracers, or before when they could use it, caused fires and things. But on some of the cultural sites, I noticed that there were bullet holes, and I know they're not now using them as targets, but in the past they have. What has been their take on opening up some of the sites that they've covered up to protect against those kinds of missed the target? Because they sandbag, they covered up, they put plywood over them to prevent potential damage. But we now don't have access to them. So what's happening with those things? Have they said
Nothing.
anything? Nothing. Okay.
They have a future plan when I really press them to open it up. Okay.
But nothing done yet.
But nothing's come.
What's the hope for the future besides the University of Mākua?
My hope? That they would become really good stewards of the land. Some of what we say and advocate will become a part of their consciousness.
And they'll do it because it's the right thing to do rather than having to go to court and get the judge.
Well, the hope
to say
is that they'll do it because it's the right thing to do and the most fashionable thing to do. Whereas nobody else out there will let them into their ʻāina.
Okay, any last words to the people that are watching?
Have faith, get involved. No matter what your expertise of study, there's always a portion of Mākua that can accommodate your interest. And we, as Mālama Mākua, would like to hear your views and opinions or even ideas about how to proceed in different areas. Aloha.